Eraserhead's AO3, or A Guide on How Not to Seduce Your Best Friend. Written by nomumomo. Read by Yours Pranks. This series has suggestive content. On YouTube, they'll be noted using the chapters function. If you would like to not listen to them, please take note of the chapters. Warning! There's descriptions of injuries that lead to blood loss in this chapter, along with at-home treatment of these wounds. If you would like to skip this scene, please also take note of those chapters in the YouTube video. Chapter 3. Kiss and Make It Better. Summary, in which Shouta takes action. Wow, you look like shit. Hisashi greeted Shouta as he walked into the teacher's lounge the next morning. You're too kind. Shouta set down his bag and slumped into his chair. He felt like shit. 3 hours of sleep was nowhere near enough, especially when he had started off with a deficit. Why the hell did he let himself stay up all night, reading a racer mic fix? Hisashi slid his chair over. Honestly, I didn't think you could look any more rumpled, he said. He ruffled Shota's hair. But you went and did it. Mike reached to pull the cherry blossom petal from Eraser's dark locks. Their eyes met for a moment, a lopsided grin on Hisashi's face. It's always been you, Mike murmured. Something warmed in Shota's chest. Maybe? Then, he remembered stupid handsome guy from the night before, and his chest tightened. He turned away, tilting his head to hide his face in his capture weapon. I'm just tired, he mumbled. Stupid. He was getting too many stupid ideas from reading. It's fine. Hisashi's grin fell, and he moved back over to his own desk. He was quiet for a few minutes, clicking through emails. Sorry about last night, he finally said, breaking the silence. I didn't mean to shut you out. It's just fun sometimes to have someone flirt back, you know? Shota's traitorous mind replayed every moment of stupid guys flirting, and went on to imagine what must have happened after he left. He wondered if Hisashi had spent the night with him. Sho, for real, are you okay? You're zoning out. Oh, oops. Oh, sorry. I'm just really tired. Okay, the blonde said, leaning back towards him, his eyebrows knit together in the middle of his forehead. It was a cute expression. Do you think you can get through the first 2 periods? Because then I can cover for your 3rd period, and you can take a solid 1-hour nap. Deal? The tightness in Shota's chest loosened a bit. Deal. Thanks, Hisashi. Somehow, Shouta made it through his first 2 classes. When they finally ended, he dragged his sleeping bag into an empty meeting room. It would be a perfect nap. He settled down on the couch, wrapped in his sleeping bag, warmth already accumulating. He set an alarm on his phone for 1 hour, but before he put his phone down, a notification popped up. Impossibly Prolific posted Chapter 15 of Assassin X Family. Oh, that was a good one. Spy Eraser had to pretend to marry Assassin Mike in order to complete a mission critical to world peace. They even had to adopt a daughter as part of the ruse. How the author, or anyone really, could see when a paternal role was a complete mystery to Shouta. While the marriage was fake, the slow burn was real, and it was just starting to heat up. Reading just 1 chapter couldn't hurt, right? Stabbed! He had gone and let himself get stabbed! Shouta cursed himself again for missing that nap. Patrolling while exhausted was never a good idea. Tonight was a prime example. His slow reflexes had turned what should have been a routine fight with a petty criminal into a real injury. When the police arrived, he left the criminal in their custody and, as usual, declined any medical attention and headed off to finish his patrol. But the damned cut wouldn't stop bleeding. Shit. Shouta didn't want to go to the hospital. He clutched his side, putting more pressure on the wound, but warm blood still oozed through his fingers. He really didn't want to go to the hospital, but it looked like there was no way he could take care of it himself. It wasn't very deep, but it definitely needed stitches, and while he had sutured his own injuries many times before, the location of this one, along his ribs on his side, was not somewhere he could reach well enough to work on. He didn't have much choice. He trudged towards the nearest hospital. He soon reached a crossroads, stopping for the traffic light. If he continued forward, the hospital was only a few blocks ahead, but He realized with a literal start that opened fresh pain from his wound. Hisashi's apartment was just as close, if he were to only turn left. The cut wasn't so bad that a few stitches wouldn't fix it. He didn't need a hospital for that. Just another set of hands. Now, hold still, Mike said, leaning in close to wipe the blood from Eraser's wound. This might sting a little. Eraser let out an involuntary growl of pain. Mike continued tending the wound undaunted. By the way, he said, finally tying off the bandage. Thank you for saving my life. Eraser looked up to meet earnest green eyes. You're welcome. This was a bad decision, and he knew it. It must have been the blood loss, or the pain that clouded his judgment. Yeah, that's what he would blame it on. Blood loss and pain. Nothing else was influencing his decisions. Surely. He turned left. Shouta knew that knocking wouldn't wake Hisashi up, since he slept without his hearing aids in, so he called instead. It must have taken many rings for the phone's vibrations to wake his friend, because Shouta was about ready to admit defeat and go to the hospital when he finally heard a voice, rough with sleep, on the line. Sho? Hold on, let me put my thing in. What's going on? Are you alright? I'm okay, Hisashi. I just need your help with something. I'm at your front door. Hisashi cleared his throat, and Shouta could hear the rustling of bedsheets as he got up. Do you have your key? Yeah, I'll come in now. I just didn't want to freak you out. Shouta let himself in and met Hisashi in the middle of the living room. Hisashi was in boxers and an oversized t-shirt, his hair in a crooked top knot and little mustache poking out at crazy angles. He blinked sleepily. Wait, are you bleeding? He pulled away the hand clamped over the wound. Holy shit, dude, what the hell? It looks worse than it is. I'd take care of it myself, but I can't reach well enough. Hisashi cursed rather creatively before taking Shouta by the arm. Well, get into the bathroom then. You're bleeding on my rug. Shouta sat down on the edge of the tub while Hisashi washed his hands. This wasn't the first time Hisashi had patched him up, but Shouta would admit that his prior injuries had all been smaller. He eyed the trail of blood drips along the bathroom floor. Hopefully Hisashi wouldn't be too mad about the mess, or question why Shouta had suddenly changed his standards for home versus hospital care. While Hisashi rummaged around in his cabinet to find his medikit, Shouta was hit by a wave of dizziness. He really didn't think he had lost that much blood. It was just the fatigue catching up to him. He took a deep, steadying breath, and reminding himself that he came here with a purpose. There was no reason in denying it at this point. He might as well see this absurd plan through. Right. So, the next step for him would be to take off his shirt. Well, the top half of his jumpsuit and his undershirt. Shouta knew that he didn't look half bad without a shirt. The reason he stayed in shape was his hero work, of course, but that didn't mean he wasn't well aware of the lean muscle definition those efforts produced. He wouldn't be so confident about the dark hair across his pecs or the numerous scars, except that he very, very clearly remembered the time a drunk Hisashi had offhandedly mentioned that that was exactly the look he was into. If Shouta didn't know better, he would think Hisashi had been talking about him. Maybe not, but he could sure as hell take advantage of those preferences now. He waited until Hisashi had found the kit and was facing in his direction. Pretending he didn't notice Hisashi looking at him, he started to strip slowly. Being seductive couldn't be all that hard. But, son of a bitch, his injury really hurt. He couldn't help but hunch over sideways, awkwardly tucking his jumpsuit down and grimacing in pain. He actually hissed when Hisashi helped pull the blood-soaked fabric off the sticky wound. Shouta, seriously? Shit, that looks bad. So much for looking sexy. It's fine, Shouta said, holding back another hiss of pain. It just needs a couple stitches. Hisashi frowned. I don't have any lidocaine to inject, he said, or even any good pain pills. You realize I'm gonna literally be sewing through your skin without anything to numb it. It's fine. Just do it already. Frown still in place, Hisashi sat behind Shouta and set to work, first putting on a pair of medical gloves and flushing the wound clean with stinging cold saline. When he placed the first suture, Shouta couldn't completely stop the yelp that escaped his lips. really fucking hurt. Hisashi tied off the suture. The hospital would have numbed you up properly, he said, words clipped. Shouta grit his teeth. I'm fine. Hisashi didn't reply, but continued his work. Shouta was more prepared for the jab of pain that came with the next stitch and managed to keep quiet. You never take your injury seriously. Don't say that you're fine. Shouta shut his mouth. Hisashi placed another stitch, and then another, each pierced and slanted needle sharp through Shota's skin. What happens when you come to me with something I can't fix? Shouta didn't have a reply to that. Hisashi continued to work in silence. The wound was long enough that it ended up requiring more than a dozen stitches, and each one hurt like a bitch. What's more, his head was still spinning, and Shouta was pretty sure that, if anything, Hisashi was far more pissed than enamored. This was not going how he had hoped, at all. Hisashi's snort broke Shouta from his thoughts. What? You're pouting. There was a playful note in Hisashi's voice that had been missing before. It was nice. Shouta crossed his arms and intentionally stuck out his bottom lip even further. I don't know what you're talking about. Hisashi's lopsided grin was back, and Shota's heart skipped a beat. Shouta deadpanned. I am a fearsome instrument of justice. I do not pout. Hisashi snorted again. Well, he said, still smiling a small smile. I guess only I get to see the softer side of Eraserhead. They were both quiet for a moment before Hisashi said, Here, let me finish. He took off his blood-stained gloves and smoothed a bandage over the completed sutures. The brush of his fingers was warm against Shota's bare skin. By then, the pain had subsided to a dull ache. Without that distraction, Shouta became acutely aware of how close they were sitting, and that he was still shirtless. He cleared his throat. Thanks, Sashi. Really, I don't know what I'd do without you. Probably die in a ditch somewhere, Hisashi said. His attempt at flippancy was spoiled by the catch in his voice. Shouta turned to meet his eyes. Their faces were almost close enough to touch. With even that small movement, however, another wave of dizziness washed over him. He ignored it and instead focused on the feel of Hisashi's soft breath and on the scent of the remnants of his cologne. Shota's voice felt thick in his throat. I mean it. You've always been there for me. Hisashi held his gaze. His face swam in and out of focus. Was he leaning in closer? Shouta felt his heart rate pick up. I know I don't really show it, but... Hisashi's face faded to black. Sharp pain bloomed across Shota's cheek. Shouta, don't you dare do this to me. He opened his eyes to see Hisashi, angry face stark under the fluorescent light. Shouta rubbed his cheek, still burning from the slap. He was on the bathroom floor now, propped up against the side of the tub. He must have passed out. Sorry, he murmured. Hisashi turned away and began aggressively packing his medical supplies up. I didn't mean to scare you. I won't do that again. Shouta, somehow, managed to convince Hisashi that he didn't need to go to the hospital. No, Hisashi, I did not suffer any head trauma. I really didn't lose that much blood. I'm just really tired. Here, feel my pulse. It wouldn't feel that strong if I was bleeding out, right? Fine, I'll drink that water. Then can I please go to bed? To Shota's disappointment, but not surprise, Hisashi brought out his futon. He dumped it unceremoniously in the middle of the living room, and then disappeared into his own bedroom. They always slept like this when Shouta stayed over. Shouta on his futon and Hisashi in his own bed. There was no reason why things should be different tonight. An injured man can't sleep on the floor. You have to take the bed, Mike insisted. But then where will you sleep? Eraser replied. The couch and my sleeping bag were destroyed so inconveniently in that villain attack earlier today. Well, I guess we have no choice but to share the bed. Mike sighed. I hope you don't mind that I sleep naked. Shouta shook the thoughts from his head and laid down on the futon without complaint. He had done enough stupid things for one night. Hisashi drove them both to UA the next morning. half an hour before they usually got there. He was uncharacteristically silent for the entire drive. Shouta tried and failed to start conversation 3 times before giving up. Hisashi dragged Shouta straight to Recovery Girl's office. He kicked through the infirmary doors, pulling Shouta after him by the wrist. "I'm an idiot who needs your help," he said, doing a poor job of keeping his volume in check. Recovery Girl looked them both over, her expression calm despite Hisashi's dramatics. "What is it this time, Yamada-kun?" "This numbskull went and got himself stabbed, and then thought it was a good idea to come to my apartment in the middle of the night instead of a hospital." "It isn't a big deal," Shouta mumbled. "You got blood all over my carpets. You passed out on my bathroom floor. You almost sent me to the hospital with how worried I was." "I see." The old woman gave them both a shrewd look, then stood and made a shooing motion. "He's going to be fine, Yamada. I'm sure you need to get to class now." With a huff, Hisashi left the infirmary. Once they were alone, the Recovery Girl pulled up Shota's shirt and took off the bandage. She gave a quick, businesslike kiss just above the wound. Shouta could feel the skin knitting together as a fresh wave of fatigue hit him. "Thanks, Suzenji-san." "Aizawa," she said, one brow raised. "I wasn't born yesterday." She efficiently, if not gently, pulled out the now unnecessary sutures. "I know that mine was not the kiss you were aiming for." Never, in the entirety of his life, had Shouta wished more that his quirk involved opening up a bottomless pit that could swallow him whole. Tags relevant to this chapter: Shuzenji Chiyo, Recovery Girl. First aid. Outtakes. It's just fun sometimes to have someone flirt back, you know? Flirt back! Oh my god! Stupid boys! This was such a silly chapter. I hope that the warnings were warranted in terms of the first aid. I just want to be careful if anyone gets a little squeamish about needles and such. But of course, thank you so much for listening to this podfic. I will see you when I do. Toodaloo!